Next, we're going to talk about Benny the Butcher. I think it's time, which I think most people who listen to this podcast want to hear us talk about Benny the Butcher.
Yeah, you know, every time I come back,
Let's say this again before we get into the album cover. Homie always comes through with a very fire intro.
Yeah.
A really fire first song that gets you ready to hear the rest. So this is the plugs I met too. Again, Benny the Butcher, Griselda. He has, I mean, Griselda has been in kind of an interesting place in 2020 and in 2021. You know, more in the sense of just like, well, where do they go now? What do they all do now? You know, what's next? They've very much patented a certain lane and sound and feel in the game, and they really brought something back to hip hop that was not there. So where do they want to go? Because they're still, you know, decently young dudes that have a lot of peak talent right now and can still kind of shape hip hop. Benny has been the most interesting to me, I guess, like in the way that he seems to be leaning into a direction that is really gaining Griselda a lot of fans, I think he leans closest into the center of where hip hop is kind of at in maybe a mainstream sense or just in a popular cultural sense. So what I'm saying is I think he, you know, of where we're at right now, he's making the least Griselda-y music out there because he's working with Hit Boy, he's working with Harry Fraud on this, and he's kind of, you know, he's still building something that I think we enjoy out of it, but it's definitely, you know, it's branching outside of that. So, yeah, what were we gonna say?
Oh no, nothing. I
You
agree. I think that like the lane that Benny is in, I think Benny is the most well suited for like different avenues. Like I feel like he's very versatile, and I think an album or a project like this is indicative of that because he's, like you said, he's working with Harry Fraud, and like he's done some music with like, I mean, I just did DJ drama Black Soprano thing. Like I feel like he can do a few different lanes of music. Can you hear that in the background?
Oh, well, I can now. Yeah, I just heard something move. That's good.
All right.
You good.
But yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think he's probably the most, not like the most interesting to me in like a musical sense, but I think he's probably the most interesting in like where does he take Griselda kind of way.
Yeah, if I'm trying to get somebody like into Griselda, I'm going to show them Benny the Butcher first, is what I'm saying. So yeah, and then going back on the intros, as far as the intros, he's has this When Tony Met Sosa, great. On his album, I remember the intro on the album being very good. The intro Babs on Tana Talk 3 is great. Is honestly one of my favorite songs he's done. And then the plugs I met, the first one has like an intro skit, and then the first song is Crowns for Kings with with Black Thought. So he knows how to really emphasize that opening and closing of the record, because Thanksgiving was the single and another really, really great track that is the closer here. So yeah, I know he knows how to emphasize those moments, and so I was wondering, like, am I gonna love the insides of this album, the meat of this record? And yeah, that's kind of where I want to have that discussion about the rest of the album. So the album cover,
he always has good album covers. I feel like I like when the album covers are a little bit more creative than this. Like I don't know, like I thought the Tana Talk 3 album cover is like one of the coolest ones that Griselda has like across their catalog.
mm-hmm.
Like these are cool, but I mean the kind of like pulling a screen cap out of a movie, blacking out the eyes thing. I feel like
Yeah, it's
it makes sense for this, but like
Yeah.
maybe
it
move away
gives
from
me
it in
the
future.
right image of what I'm supposed to be like
Right.
hearing in the music. But as far as you're right, it is just a screen cap from the movie and whiting out the eyes and putting the number 2 and
Right.
and then that little
He
like
did get the little like Patso, like
the
vinyl.
yes, yeah, I
ring.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. Like I've seen so many people do that now, and like
Right.
on album covers too. I see that little effect on the album cover too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess if you really want to get into it, it's not like the most outstanding thing. But again, simplicity is also important, right? If you can just
Right.
give me something that's cool, and it does legitimately just give me something for the vibe of the album. I guess that's really all that matters to me, and that's kind of the great thing about Griselda. Like they kind of keep it raw, keep it simple, keep it down to the very most necessary qualities. So now, what I was also going to bring up about this album is, yeah, I thought the album beginning and ender were 2 of my favorite tracks. And my question is, was I going to get a third really, really good track out of the middle of here that I love, that I really feels like stands up to the rest of this? Because looking at the track list right now, I liked everything I heard in between those 2 songs. So I liked every song I heard on the album, but I really, really liked the first song. I really, really liked the ender. I was hoping to get kind of blown away by something in the middle. One other track here in the middle. And I'm not sure. I'm not really sure right now which one that would be. There's the Chainz feature, which is cool. So the overall song, that's number 2, featuring Chainz. Rest in peace, Chainz. That was kind of cool to see. And, you know, I enjoyed hearing the 2 Chainz song. I feel like...
Yeah, not my favorite song, but I like the idea of 2 Chainz and Benny the Butcher. Like, I like...
Yeah.
I thought it was fine, but I think I just liked... I think my affection for 2 Chainz is just like I'm biased. Like, I love everything he does.
I do too, and I love his one-liners.
Yeah.
He's interesting to me because 2 Chainz has made good albums recently. Like,
yeah,
I think Rapper Go to the League was pretty good. I think Pretty Girls Like Trap Music was pretty good. I think, and then albums before then have been like he's had some solid mixtapes. I don't remember how I felt about So Help Me God, but I'm kind of wondering like where he's at in his career now. But it is still nice to hear him on a feature. The other feature that I actually really enjoyed would be Fat Joe. I like Fat Joe. I've kind of always liked him and liked his rapping. And I liked hearing Fat Joe on Hitler Wears Hermes 8 or 7. Sorry, so 8 hasn't come out yet. Or was it 6? No, 7. On 7. And yeah, I think he fits good with what they're doing. And then, yeah, I think every one of these songs is pretty good to almost really good. But to be honest, there's not one single one that, and I've listened to this like 3 times now, there's not one single one other that I think is like completely outstanding. It's cool to hear French Montana and Jim Jones. They obviously make sense with this Harry Fraud shit. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the other compliments I have to give this project are on the side of Harry Fraud because, you know, I think Benny the Butcher really brought you most of everything that he continues to bring you. And I think we've just kind of come to know what to expect from Benny. And, you know, I think he delivered some, like, a lot of great rapping and good hooks. But then also, like, there are a few songs that really have some of those one-liners that really stand out. He has those kinds of bars that stick with you, and so I was hoping to see some of those, and I heard those in here. But yeah, we love Harry Fraud. I know we love Harry Fraud, and we have for a long time because he's been someone that worked with Currency. He's worked with a lot of rappers that we like for a long time, and he's just been slowly doing his thing. And I think this is kind of a big look. This is kind of a big look for both of them, and I think he really raises the floor of this project and gives every beat something really good. And also, he makes beats that make Benny sound good too, which I think is important. Not that, you know, Benny isn't great, but I do think he kind of needs beats that are gonna serve him, like every other rapper does. But I think he kind of, you know, I think his hit and miss kind of goes on whether or not he's picking beats that I don't know, just give him a great song. So yeah,
Yeah, I think. Sorry, just one last note on like Harry Fraud. I think Harry Fraud is like one of those producers that I've always liked. Like I think he's really good at like flipping a sample in not like the most like I feel like it's not like always the most creative flip. Like I think it's pretty like par for the course on the sample. But I think I think he's good at like making sure like okay, when a punchline hits, like I'm gonna throw in that meaty, like the meaty part of a sample, and that's just gonna accentuate what he said even more. Like he usually uses those kind of like soulful samples or whatever. And I think that always works really well for like a guy like Currency, who has good like
he has good
like
punchlines.
one-liners.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it works for guys like he's produced for like Wiz Khalifa, obviously, as a Currency, you know, kind of affiliate, Smoke Dizza, like those guys. I think all those guys are good at those like punchlines. And then Benny the Butcher is like, I don't know, probably like one of the best at it right now. So it made like perfect sense to me to like get Harry Fraud to produce a whole Benny tape like that. And he showed out too. I feel like it's very recognizably Harry Fraud on the I mean, if you obviously with the tag and everything, but like if you took that away,
yeah,
I feel like I'd be thinking like, oh, this kind of sounds like, you know, like a Fraud beat.
Yeah.
Like